Let me turn, if I may, to the big news of the day, which is that after 14 consecutive hikes in interest rates, the Bank of England is staying without raising them today. Do you think that we have reached, as it were, the top of the hill, that we're on a plateau and that it's downhill from now on inflation?
Well, it would be wonderful if that was the case, because, it is so tough for families having to cope with massively higher mortgage costs. And of course, it's very difficult for businesses who've got loans, which become a lot more expensive. It's much harder for them to expand. Obviously, it's not for me to make the judgment as to when interest rates should start to fall. And we have a good system with a totally independent group of economists who make that call. But if you're asking me as Chancellor, as a consumer,
your instinct, really, yes.
I don't have an instinct. I don't think it'd be right for me to say what my instinct is as to what the right time is, because that would be to second guess this group of people whose job it is. What I would say, though, is that it is very clear. Inflation peaked at over 11%. Now it's under 7%. It's actually 6.7%. So the plan is working. It's come down by 40% since the peak. And we need to stick to that plan, because actually even 6.7% is too high. That is, that masks, for example, food inflation above 10%. And that is real pain on family budgets. So we do need to stick to our guns and see this through.
But you would regard today's news as good news?
Absolutely. It's good news for families. It's good news for businesses. What it says is the Bank of England thinks we may have hit the peak, but they have said that Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, has been very clear we cannot be complacent. And what I would say to your listeners, Andrew, is that the fight against inflation never happens in a straight line. There are always ups and downs, but the big picture is that we are finally starting to win this battle.
Let me put to you a criticism of your time as Chancellor that came from former Prime Minister Liz Truss this week. She says since she left office, both mortgage rates and gilt rates have gone higher than they were at the time of the mini-budget. The implied criticism is that the grown-ups have taken over and they haven't done any better. Indeed, they've done a little bit worse. How do you respond?
Well, I just don't agree with that analysis. It is true that some mortgage rates are higher, but that is because the battle against inflation took longer. What caused them to go high this time last year was the mini-budget, which took the markets by storm. And, because we reversed those decisions, we managed to get the rates down again. But subsequent to that, we've found that it is going to be a tougher battle to bring down inflation. And all I would say is we will do what it takes for as long as it takes to make sure that we do bring inflation down to the 2% level. That's the proper Bank of England target.
Now, one of the consequences of interest rates being held at 5.25%, of course, is that the cost of government borrowing is going to be less than it might otherwise have been. The Resolution Foundation suggests you're going to be £11 billion better off than you were in March. And already people are saying, room here, headroom for tax cuts.
Andrew, you are such a seasoned operator. You will know that every Chancellor wakes up to newspaper headlines at least once a week that say there's extra headroom and the Chancellor might be able to do this or might be able to do that. I really, really wish it was true, but unfortunately it just isn't. If you look at what we are having to pay for our long-term debt, it is higher now than it was at the spring budget. I wish it wasn't. It makes life extremely difficult. It makes tax cuts virtually impossible, and it means that I will have another set of, frankly, very difficult decisions. All I would say is, if we do want those long-term debt costs to come down, then we need to really stick to this plan to get inflation down, get interest rates down. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen before the autumn statement on November the 22nd, alas.